The EU budget under scrutiny. Is EU aid funding peace or fueling extremism? That's the subject of our debate today here in the European Parliament in Brussels. This debate is organized by EU Watch. EU Watch is a watchdog organization that was founded in 2020. It monitors and scrutinizes EU policies and decisions. It promotes transparency and accountability, and it advocates for democracy and human rights. Just as an example of one of the initiatives that is currently being launched by EU Watch, you'll see here next to me a website where you can monitor the activities of all members of the European Parliament. So go there, have a look, and click maybe on one of your MEPs or any member that you would like to check out. We are here today with two members of the European Parliament, both from the same political group, the European People's Party. One is our host, Lukas Mandl, who is a member of Parliament from Austria. He's a member since 2017, if I'm correct. And he is the coordinator of his political group on the Development Cooperation Committee. Is that correct?
Yes. Absolutely.
Thank you very much for hosting us. Our other guest is Niclas Herbst. He's a member of Parliament for the CDU from Germany, from the north of Germany. And he's the chairman of the Budget Control Committee in the European Parliament. So he's our expert today when it comes to checking how EU money, taxpayers' money, is being spent. So maybe we'll jump right into it. And I ask the first question to Mr. Herbst. The EU prides itself on having one of the world's most transparent aid systems. And yet, it looks like the public trust is waning. Do the current oversight mechanisms really guarantee that the EU funds reach their beneficiaries and they have the impact that the EU claims they have? Well, speaking on the foreign affairs budget, not on the general budget.
I do think that generally the oversight and transparency and the scrutiny by European institutions over its budget is pretty good. But you asked me, if there's a guarantee that every single taxpayer's euro is spent wisely and the way we want it to be spent. Of course not. There's always a possibility to misuse. There's always a possibility for fraud. But there's also a possibility for the wrong political guidance. And in the CONT committee, the Budgetary Control Committee of the European Parliament, we try to be part of this multi-layered approach to scrutinize public funding by the European Union. We do have good partners like the European Court of Auditors, and we're trying everything to do that every single taxpayer's euro is spent in the right way, the way we as Parliament want it. But is there a guarantee? No.
No. Maybe Mr. Mandl, walk us through a little bit. What is the overall amount that is being spent on foreign assistance, on humanitarian aid every year by the European Union? Do you have another ballpark figure?
If we put the EU member states and the European Union level together, it's around 80 billion a period. And this is by far the largest donation on earth for development. But let me clearly claim, as Ronald Reagan has said, the best social program is a job. I always claim the best development aid is economic cooperation. And this is what we have to thrive for. This is what we have to wish also for the countries in trouble, for the people in need, that via education, via positive circumstances of dwelling, of living, via positive labor environment and functioning economies, reliability, good ties with other parts of the world, economic progress is possible, and this is the best kind of development aid.
So I'm asking the second question maybe, who decides where the money goes, which country it gets, which NGO it gets, and how much is allocated for each region, for each country? Who decides on that? And Well, maybe we'll start with that, and then afterwards we see who decides whether it was wisely spent.
If I only knew who decides it. No, seriously, we have a multi-annual financial framework, which is pretty strict, which sets out the rules for 7 years. And actually, right now we're in the process of developing a new multi-annual financial framework starting in 2028. So there's the framework. It's a real tough framework, not very flexible. Then, of course, we have the two budgetary co-legislators, which is the Parliament and Council together. So that's different to what your viewers might know from their home country, where you have one budget legislator, which is the Parliament. We have to work together very closely with Council and have to agree on the annual budget. And then there's a lot of executive power after this to the Commission. Our political system here in Brussels. The Commission does have a room to maneuver how to spend this money on the spot, so to speak, how it's really implemented on the ground. That's our process here.
Okay. And can you maybe tell us a little bit more how the Budget Control Committee of the European Parliament works? So what are you looking at? You are presumably looking at how the money was spent already, so you're looking at it afterwards, or are you looking also beforehand?
Of course, we try to also look at it structurally, because if a good structure is in place, that's the main thing. But we have a multi-layered approach when it comes to budgetary control. Of course, it begins ex ante. That means before the process, a lot of paperwork has to be done. A lot of clauses are included, for example, when it comes to development aid, when it comes to human rights, and so on. So on paper, everything is fine. That's before the process. Then, of course, once the money is dispersed, and we're talking about large sums, we're not only talking about development aid, we're talking about security cooperation, all kinds of instruments. And we have a very strict financial regulation and common provisions regulation. So we are very good at regulations here in the EU. We have, of course, internal audit by the Commission, done by, in this case, by DG INPA, for example, and the European External Action Service. We have institutions like the Court of Auditors. The Court of Auditors plays a crucial role in controlling the money, especially when it comes to the structure of the spending. We have OLAF, the anti-fraud agency. We have EPPO, the European Public Prosecutor's Office, just in case something needs to be taken to court. Of course, we have also the Budgetary Control Committee, which is, so to speak, and I'm the chair of this committee. I would call it the political arm of the anti-fraud architecture and the budgetary control architecture. And that is also important to know, we are the discharge authority. So once the money is spent, we grant discharge, or we do not grant discharge to the Commission for everything that has been done. And we scrutinize public spending by Commission. And there's, of course, also ex post controls, for example, by the European External Action Service or the delegations in the respective countries. So there are a lot of layers in controlling the flow of money.
Would you say that those layers have turned up the fraud that is presumably happening, or have there been many discoveries in this process, or is it more a political negotiation that's going on there?
No, we do discover things. Just late this year, we had major cases in Romania or in the Czech Republic with a university hospital and so on. So from time to time, there are allegations that turn out to be true or legit. And as I said, there's always a possibility. When there's money around, there's always someone trying to commit fraud or corruption or whatever. I think our system isn't that bad after all. I think we can prevent a lot of things, but if there's enough criminal energy, we also have to take legal steps afterwards.
Yes. So speaking of criminal energy, there has been a lot of discussion over the last 2 years at least, but even before, on the funding that goes to the Palestinian Authority, talking about 500 to 600 million euros every year. There's also EU money that goes to UNRWA, the Palestinian UN Refugee and Works agency, which basically is active in all areas in Gaza and the Palestinian Authority, and a lot of other recipients of EU money. I would like to talk a little bit about that and maybe take that as a case study for how the EU is managing its external assistance. Mr. Mandl, what would you say the Palestinian Authority gets ballpark 500 million every year from the EU. Is that money wisely spent?
Not yet. And I will go deeper into that. I'm happy you said I would be the host of today's event, and I was closely listening to the elaborations in length during the last 4 questions of Niclas Herbst. It's very interesting also because we are negotiating the European Parliament in different fields, and so it's always very interesting on how colleagues look at it, and the competence in the scrutiny of Niclas Herbst is extremely important for the Parliament. And as you have said, EU Watch is a watchdog body. The most important watchdog body of the European Union is the European Parliament itself, of course, on behalf of the people. And this means also we work together with trustworthy organizations such as EU Watch, and this is why it's very good that we can have this talk together now. Regarding your question, UNRWA is in the first place a problem of the United Nations and the world, the international community, but secondly, of course, also for the European Union, because European Union is largely funding UNRWA, and has been largely funding UNRWA for a very long time. Why is UNRWA a problem for the United Nations? Because it turned out for the whole Middle East issue that UNRWA became from the idea to be part of the solution, definitely part of the problem. And this is why we have to have a deeper look into it. And I don't want to be polemic here. I know there are people who work hard. There are people who wish the best. There are people who really want to educate Palestinian children. There are people who really want to make living circumstances better and by that way contribute to peace. But the whole circumstances were not fit for purpose since UNRWA has been infiltrated by Hamas. Recently we have seen after the IDF forces fighting this kind of terrorism of Hamas, leaving the Gaza Strip, what did the terrorist organization do? It did what terrorist organization used to do, killing people. In that case, they started killing Palestinians, the ones who they saw as enemies of their terrorist regime, Islamist ideology, countermined, and also against women, against girls. So all of this ideology is still there. And if we start funding everything again, or restart the funding, continue it, or even increase it without conditionality, we will have, again, a problem with the region, in the region, and we will cause problems for the world. This is why, of course, we have to support people in need, but we also have to put in place conditionality when it comes to proper structures, proper infrastructure, and creating a society that in 10 or 20 years can really be fit for what is called a two-state solution, to have a state. It's absolutely absurd to call it now a state or to go for a two-state solution as it was politically claimed from some directions. No, first structures have to be set in place, democracy, fighting anti-Semitism, proper living conditions also for girls and women, and many more things, and then a two-state solution after, of course, a security guarantee for Israel is possible. And this has to be connected, otherwise we pour again money from all over the world into a situation and a scenario where this money will be misused.
But you spoke of conditionality, so basically imposing a condition before you get the money, or if you get money, you need to implement the reform. That hasn't really worked, has it, with the Palestinian Authority, and neither has it worked with UNRWA. And now we had the Commission President announcing 1.6 billion euros for reconstructing of Gaza, presumably much of which will go to UNRWA, again on the same recipients that received the money beforehand, and where there were allegations at least of fraud or of misuse of funds. Why does the EU struggle so much to impose those conditions, to have that conditionality being accepted by the recipients, by the Palestinians in this case?
Well, this is exactly what we are trying to implement now. This is exactly my policy line, that we need this conditionality. And in many cases in history and also in present times, of course, it has worked and it still works. We have to closely look after conditionality to be fulfilled from the sides we wish them for. And we also need the overall picture. When it comes to reconstruction of Gaza, we have to define what it means. If it means that we reconstruct the tunnels where Hamas can hold hostages in the future, that's not the reconstruction of Gaza we mean. If we mean reconstruction of hospitals, which are in truth paramilitary bases of Hamas, this will not be the reconstruction we mean. What we need is an economically self-capable people in the Palestinian territories, which can live without violence against others, without hatred against others, without anti-Semitism, and help themselves via education, work, proper business, positive outreach to the rest of the world, not being dependent from all the world pouring money into the region, which has been happening for nearly 6 decades now. So this is the kind of reconstruction we need. This is why I quoted Ronald Reagan before, and this is why we have to really follow a larger picture, including the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords are like the European integration was in the beginning, former enemies working together. And it works very well between Israel and former enemies of Israel in the Arab world. So one day, if the Iranian regime, which caused mainly all the mess after October 7, 2023, and on this day, when the Iranian regime will be fallen, when there will be a proper society and a political system that's reliable, then the Abraham Accords can spread even to Iran, even to Saudi Arabia, and they're already there with Morocco, with the United Arab Emirates, with other partners, and this is a very positive pattern. And this positive development was one of the reasons why the Iranian regime via Hamas attacked on October 7, 2023. We have to see the larger scenario, and this is why we have to think positively, but help Palestinians to help themselves, of course, with conditionality. And if somebody would claim I'm dreaming about something that's too visionary and even utopic, then I say, yes, that's true, it's visionary. Because what we recently experienced is that Hamas is killing Palestinians because Hamas is killing the Palestinians who Hamas sees as enemies of Hamas. It's a terrorist organization. It again proved it's a terrorist organization. Somebody has to take care, first place, of the security of the Palestinians against their perpetrators, which always were, have been, and still are Hamas terrorists. So we are still in the middle of a mess. Even if we have peace, which is positive, even if the hostages have been released, which is extremely positive, we are still in a mess, and we are talking about a proper future, which has to be worked.
Are you confident that you will get a majority for conditionality with respect to money that is being given to the Palestinians in the future, in the European Parliament? Because I remember a situation 3-4 years ago, and I think you were involved in that, when the discussion was about the school books, and there was no majority in the end in the European Parliament to put some of the money into reserve and to make it conditional on real reforms in the Palestinian Authority. So the question today is, looking at the majorities in the Parliament, looking at maybe the fact that the UNRWA has been nominated for the Sakharov Prize by the Social Democrats and the Left Party in the European Parliament, is it realistic that there will be a majority, that conditionality will be imposed?
Yes.
What makes you optimistic?
That's what I'm striving for. We have better majorities in the European Parliament than in the last mandate. We see it in many different fields, in the field of deregulation, rational, positive, reasonable, future-oriented economic policies, pathways to prosperity. And we also have seen it even while the Israel defense and the fight of Israel against Islamistic terrorism, until the release of the hostages. We will see how the situation develops with Hamas, which is obviously still in place and not fully defeated. While this period of time there were different developments, generally the European Parliament had pretty stable majorities, or at least champions thriving for very important things. And when it comes to conditionality for European taxpayers' money and for future purposes, it's the chance to make clear that Europe will not make the same mistake again, not being part of it when it comes to major decisions for the future world order. It's an opportunity to make clear that we involve ourselves in a positive way in the spirit of the values of human dignity, of individual freedom, also for the Palestinians, of security for the Middle East, and even of economic prosperity for the Middle East, since we see something in the very beginning which is very similar to the beginning of the European integration, meaning economic cooperation of former enemies. There are many good arguments for this. This is in Parliament. We debate, we deliberate, we exchange arguments, and via deliberation, we can achieve majorities. And this is why, of course, I'm confident. I always see the glass half full, and I'm optimistic that such majorities will be possible.
Okay. I'm putting maybe the same question to you. With your experience in budgetary control, are you optimistic that this can be achieved, that saga about the school books which incited to hatred of Israel and of Jews in general, that giving aid and assistance to the Palestinian Authority can really transform and reform the Palestinian society and contribute to the goal of nation building there?
I think it's important to stress that conditionality is nothing unusual in the budgetary procedures of the European Union. We have a conditionality regulation in place. So if a member state, for example, does not meet the rule of law standards, that can have budgetary implications. So it's not like we have to come up with a new idea. This idea is implemented throughout the EU budget.
Maybe I can put it a bit provocatively now to you. Is the argument that Hungary is being checked much more, is being treated to a higher standard than, for example, the Palestinians, is that argument right, or would you say it's not correct?
Well, it's not wrong, but it's not right either, because, I mean, Hungary is an EU member state.
Yeah.
And there, of course,
they get more money than
criteria.
others.
The standards, I mean, we talk about different standards. So they're not even, I mean, the most extreme positions would claim Palestine would be a future EU member state.
No, I'm not suggesting that.
I mean,
from a more structural point, I mean,
dimensions.
Am I optimistic? Of course, I'm always optimistic, and we will fight for that. So our political, point of view is very clear here. And but from a structural point of view, what are the loopholes or the danger for misuse? And this is first of all very often complex delivery chains. If you have to work with subcontractors, if you have to work with NGOs, other international organizations, that is always an entrance door for less scrutiny and less transparency. Is this the case in Palestine? Yes. Another point is, of course, the limited...
What can be done? I'm wondering, is it have fewer partners or
we need
different partners?
Yes, we need to be sure that we have partners in place who are really dedicated to our standards of transparent and, scrutinized way of spending money. Yes, that is very important. It has to be seen throughout the whole process. But that's only one point. Another point is our in-country monitoring. The less people you have on the ground who are really able to see what's happening, if things are happening underground, it's hard to verify. Is this the case? Is this limited in-country visibility and possibilities to verify spending the case in Gaza, for example? Yes, it is. Local governance and corruption risks. Is this the case? I don't think we need to talk about it.
But let's say we're talking about Ramallah, about the West Bank, about the Palestinian Authority. There you have an EU Commission representation. They are managing the projects on the ground. But my maybe again a bit provocative question is: have they gone native? Are they sort of part of the people who pursue a certain agenda?
In part, definitely. At least it's my personal opinion. But to be a bit more neutral on this, or a bit more structural, we do see that, let's call it political sensitivity, is an issue. If you're too close to the cause, let's say it, and that's how I understand your question, that's a danger. And coming back, for example, to this example of these textbooks, we've been fighting for this every single annual budget.
Niclas, Herbst and me, among some
year.
others, even long before October 7, 2023, when the world took a closer look, all the world, we were doing that for a very long time. This would be an issue for maybe our next talk. It's a pity that our time is already over today in the studio of the European Parliament. But I learned a lot from this talk, and it's positive that we can deliberate on these really, really burning issues.
Okay, thank you both very much. Thank you for hosting us. And until the next time, thanks for watching.